All right, today we're diving into something totally new. A market where you can trade on pretty much anything, from who's going to win an election to who takes home an Oscar. It's literally a market for the future. And it all kicked off with one really powerful idea. And get this, right at the center of this whole thing is a founder who's just 29 years old. But believe me, that's just where the story starts. Because that company, it's now worth a mind-blowing $11 billion. So who is this person and what is the big idea that's worth so much? Okay, first things first, let's talk about the founder, Luana Lopes Lara. Her story is just as wild as the company she built. I mean, at 29, she became the world's youngest self-made female billionaire. That is just, wow. So how on earth did she pull that off? Well, it all comes back to this one simple but really powerful idea. See, about 7 years ago, she and her co-founder were on Wall Street and they thought, what if you could trade on the future itself? And that's where this idea of a prediction market comes in. It's a little different. Instead of buying a stock, you're basically buying and selling contracts on whether or not something will happen in the real world. The price of that contract, anywhere from 1 to 99 cents, is basically the crowd's guess. So if a contract is trading at 70 cents, the market is saying there's a 70% chance that thing is going to happen. Simple, right? Here's a great way to think about it. You know, traditional markets, that's your stocks, your crypto, your bonds. Kalshi's markets, they're for events. We're talking elections, what the Fed's going to do with interest rates, who's going to win an Oscar, you name it. And this isn't just about betting. It's a whole new way to think about and manage real-world risk. Okay, so how does this all work in practice? And more importantly, who's actually using this stuff? If you can trade on anything, who are these traders? That's the big question, right? You think it's all Wall Street pros and finance whizzes, but the reality is actually pretty surprising. See, the whole philosophy behind this platform comes down to this one simple quote from the founder. Everyone is an expert on something. The big idea is that if you know a lot about a specific niche, literally anything, you should be able to put that knowledge to work. And this is my favorite example, for real. One of their top users is a massive Ariana Grande fan, just a super fan. They knew everything about music, the charts, that deep knowledge. They found Kalshi, started trading based on what they knew, and they've made over $70,000, enough to pay off their student loans, buy a car, and even fund their master's degree. All from being a fan. And that's the thing, it's built for everyone. You don't need a huge bankroll to get started. You can literally make a trade for $1. Most people are trading somewhere in the $50 to $100 range, so it's super accessible. Okay, but let's address the elephant in the room. You're probably thinking, wait a second, trading on future events? Isn't that just gambling? And that's a super important point, because legally and structurally, this is an exchange, not a casino. They're two totally different things. And here's why. Kalshi is a federally regulated exchange. It plays by the same rulebook as traditional financial exchanges. That's what really sets it apart from a sports book or a casino. Let's really break this down. The business model is totally different. Kalshi is just a matchmaker. They connect a buyer with a seller, and that's it. They're not betting against you. A sports book, on the other hand, is the house. They are literally taking your bet, and they make money when you lose. And honestly, the founder put it perfectly. You know that saying, the house always wins? Well, her point is, Kalshi isn't a house. Their whole model is designed so they're not betting against their own users. So a super simple way to wrap your head around this is to think of Kalshi as the New York Stock Exchange, but for events. It's just the platform, the marketplace, where all this trading happens. So you've got this new regulated model, and as you could imagine, growth has been absolutely explosive. So what's next? What's the plan to go totally mainstream, especially now that competition is starting to pop up? Man, their journey has been a whirlwind. The whole idea started on Wall Street just over 7 years ago. Just this week, they announced a huge partnership with Coinbase. Today, they've got that $11 billion valuation, and the ultimate goal? To become a public company. So their game plan for staying on top seems pretty clear. First off, they actually welcome competition. They think it'll help the whole idea of prediction markets get bigger. They're making smart partnerships, like the one with Coinbase, to get more people on board. And really, their main focus is just having a better product, a better market, and better liquidity, which just means there are always enough buyers and sellers to make a trade happen instantly. And what's so cool about this is that you can see what the world is thinking about just by looking at the most popular markets. A year ago it was all politics and elections. But then when everyone was talking about a potential TikTok ban, boom, that became the #1 market. It's like a real-time snapshot of what's on everyone's mind. And that kind of brings us to the final question, right? When you think about it, from sports and pop culture to finance and politics, the possibilities are just endless. It really makes you think, if you could trade on what you know best, what future event would you predict?